Today, I'm here with my sweet husband, and we are so happy to start a new series called At the Table with Ted and Mary here in our nest. And we're going to talk about some of our favorite books, movies, songs, board games, and lots more. And so we're so happy you can be here to join us today. Hi, sweet friends. If you're new here, I'm Mary.
Hi, sweet friends. I'm Ted. And you know my sweet wife from her popular YouTube channel, Mary's Nest, and plus her two cookbooks. Her best-selling cookbook, the one that first came out, which is the Modern Pioneer Cookbook, and her second follow-up bestseller, the Modern Pioneer Pantry. And wow, what a year it's been, because you released your second book this year in August, and we went on a whirlwind book tour all over basically all over the U.S., from here Texas to the South, and I guess there's other parts of the U.S. too, but we had a wonderful time on it.
So we're looking forward to really sharing these things with you, and since it's December, we're kind of focusing on a bit of a Christmas theme. And if you saw my video back in the fall, I was just by myself. I'm so happy to have my sweet husband here with me now in this new series that we're doing. But many of you said that you really enjoyed what I did back in the fall, where I talked about favorite books and movies and TV shows that had a very fall theme that I like. And the reason that I wound up doing that was because, as I said, I think I shared it in a community post on YouTube, was that so many TV shows, movies, books today have become very harsh. And I really miss the things that I grew up with, the movies and books that I read when I was younger. And so I want to share those with you because I know many of you have shared with me that you're looking for more wholesome things to read, to watch, to listen to, and board games to play, you know, with the family and friends, and just kind of be close and cozy, and maybe give ourselves a little bit of a break from the harshness, or the coarseness, that we sometimes see in our modern world. But what we wanted to do, so in any event, going forward, when we do more episodes of this together, that I do together with my sweet husband, we'll be sharing, it's kind of seasonal favorites. So periodically throughout next year, we'll share, like our spring favorites, maybe summer, fall, whatever the case may be. And you have to let us know in the comments, after you watch this, if you enjoy this and what you'd like to see from us going forward. So that's that. Alrighty, so now I want to share with you, I'm going to start, and I'm going to share with you two books that I feel are really good for the season. One I've read many times, and going back to when I was a child. And the second is a relatively new book, and it's kind of a little bit related to something I shared with you last fall. But the first book, and I don't think this will come as a surprise to any of you who have been with me for a while, but it's Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. I love this book. And the reason that I love this book is that because I love any story that is a story of redemption. And if you're familiar with Christmas Carol, and I think a lot of people have, even if you haven't read the book, you've probably seen various movie renditions of it, which we're going to talk about later. But this is a lovely one. This is an illustrated one that you really can read, sitting side by side, with children and whatnot. There's beautiful illustrations throughout the book, and it's just lovely. And this is an older book, and I found this at a used bookstore, and half-price books, which we have here in Austin, but there's many around the United States. But this is a wonderful book. I'm just going to check and see.
Yeah, the illustrations.
The illustrations are gorgeous, aren't they? I'll show you all some more. This particular one was 1983, so it's been around a while, but let me show you some of these illustrations, how glorious they are.
Now, was this one from Half Price or Recycled Reads?
Oh, that's a good question.
I can't remember.
I can't remember. You know what? I always tend to think Half Price books, but you're right. Look at the detail. Isn't that gorgeous? And I have to share with you, I read some of this book. Oh, look at this! We love this scene in one of the movies. It's cute. But aren't the illustrations gorgeous?
Magnificent.
And I'll
yes,
tell you, I think last year I read a little bit of this book during a cooking video that I was actually doing, where I was making Mrs. Cratchit's Christmas dinner. And I'll be sure to link to that video below, where she cooks a goose, right?
I think so.
And it's kind of funny, that expression, you know, because we have the expression, you know, oh, your goose is cooked. It doesn't mean necessarily a good thing for the person.
Dinner's ready.
Yeah. But Mrs. Cratchit makes a goose, and I make that with the various side dishes that she made with it. And that's a fun video, and I'll be sure to link to that below if you want to be adventurous and try a Christmas dinner from A Christmas Carol. But this is just a wonderful book, and it's interesting because it is a little bit of a ghost story, and if you have children that, like our son Benjamin, he's a grown man now, but he would, as he was getting a little older, he would sometimes clamor me for like a little bit of a ghost story, but you know, nothing too frightening. And it was funny because one year he's like, I want to see a scary movie, you know, because I was always putting the kibosh on that, but I didn't want him to have nightmares or anything. But finally, one time we turned our couch around that's at the foot of our bed, and it was me, Ben, and our dog at the time, who was alive, Obi. And we were all squished together on the couch, and we watched the original Frankenstein with Boris Karloff. And it was very cute because he wasn't scared, you know, and he was probably 10 or 11 at the time. And he said, now this is what I'm talking about. And I thought that was very cute. But if you have kids who are kind of clamoring for a ghost story, I always feel this is a very safe one. It has a very good redemptive theme. And I really like Charles Dickens. There's two authors I really like that I was introduced to as a child, Charles Dickens and Pearl S. Buck. And Pearl S. Buck, if you're familiar with her parents were missionaries in China, and she wrote a lot of books set in China, as well as other parts around the world. But I find her a very interesting woman. Her own personal life is very interesting. And we'll talk more about Pearl S. Buck in the future when I talk about books that I enjoy. But now the second book that I'm going to share with you, I have not read this yet, but I'm very anxious to. If you saw my fall video, and Ted knows about this because I've talked about this book a lot, and also too, he's usually the fellow behind the camera, so he's heard this. But I loved the book. If you're hearing a yawning, Indy is at our feet. He wants to be part of the party here. I loved the book Wish You Well by David Baldacci. Now, he normally writes thrillers, and I know my father really enjoyed his thrillers, and I can't speak to those books because I've never read them. But Wish You Well is one of the most loveliest books I have ever read. And I believe David Baldacci may have grown up in Virginia. I'm not sure, but it's a story about two children in Virginia who have to go to Virginia and stay with, I believe it's, I don't even know if it's the grandmother. It might be the great-grandmother. I can't remember exactly now. But it was turned into a movie also, but I will tell you, read the book. Many times, it's funny, I will many times like a movie more than a book, which is kind of the reverse of most people. But in this case, people are 100% correct. The book is better than the movie. But the movie, it's still a good movie, and it's totally family friendly. And the book, you could read this book out loud to children. It's totally family friendly. There's no vulgarity, nothing like that. I don't like that, you know. So when I share recommendations with you, you can be pretty assured that they're going to be, you know, as you say, clean reads, closed doors, so on and so forth. The same with movies. But David, that book, Wish You Well, if you've not seen that video where I talk about it, I'll link to that below. That is such a wonderful book. I highly recommend it. It's a beautiful, beautiful story, and you'll fall in love with the two children. as well as the grandmother and just all the characters. But David Baldacci wrote this book, and it's called The Christmas Train. And someone's becoming a little restless. Oh, come here, buddy. Come here. So, The Christmas Train by David Baldacci. And so I want to read the jacket to you so you can get an idea of what this will be about. And once I've read this, I will definitely share with you, what I thought of it. So in case you don't get around to it this Christmas, maybe next Christmas, or if you like the way Hallmark does Christmas in July, you could always read it in the summer. But one of America's most critically acclaimed storytellers, David Baldacci, has enthralled millions of readers with his popular novels. Now is a special new gift edition. Here is Baldacci's beloved holiday classic, a work that showcases his remarkable versatility as he brings us a uniquely entertaining tale, The Christmas Train. Delusioned journalist Tom Langdon must get from Washington, D.C. to L.A. in time for Christmas. Forced to take the train across the country because of a slight misunderstanding at airport security, oh dear, he begins a journey of self-discovery and rude awakenings, mysterious going-ons, and thrilling adventures, screwball escapades, and holiday magic. He has no idea that the locomotives pulling him across America will actually take him into the rugged terrain of his own heart. And he rediscovers people's essential goodness and someone very special he believed he had lost. Equal parts hilarious, poignant, suspenseful, and thrilling. David Baldacci's The Christmas Train is filled with memorable characters who have packed their bags with as much wisdom and mischief and show how we do get second chances to fulfill our deepest hopes and dreams, especially during this season of miracles. So I'm looking forward to it because I would say all the ways they described this book, hilarious, poignant, suspenseful, and thrilling, is what I would say for Wish You Well also. So hopefully this will be good. I'm looking forward to reading it, and I'll definitely share it with you. And now something I want to mention, and Ted's going to fill you in on this, is that sometimes I may not actually read the book. Sometimes I will listen to the audio version of the book. And I think you're listening to an audio version right now.
Oh, yes. It's called Brothers in Arms, and it's by James Holland. It's a nonfiction book. And I've seen his books in the bookstores, regular bookstores and barns, sometimes at half price, which are all over. Well, we have about 5 locations here just in Central Texas. And when we had traveled in the South, when we were nearby barns or half price, we'd stop by to see what the folks were reading in that area. One thing that we are kind of sad about is that the Recycled Reads, which is a bookstore, kind of a used bookstore here in Austin, that all the libraries and all people who are donating books would go to a central location to make the donations, and then they'd sell the books back. Usually $2 for a hardback, $1 for a paperback. Or for a DVD, $1, and they had some other things that they would price a little higher if they thought they were collectibles. And again, this is all to go back into the general fund for the library. But sadly, this is the last year. That's been many years, because I remember some of your earlier videos, you were doing book hauls, and you were showing off some of the cookbooks that you found, and you found some beautiful vintage cookbooks.
Oh, fantastic.
From Recycled Reads, and there's some old videos that we can link to as part of that if you're interested. And so what was nice about it is that you never know what you'd find, right? Or what you might be interested in. And what a bargain price for some of those older books. You talk about books that are clean reads, that are very wholesome, that lift up the spirit, lift up the children who might read it, and what they would read back then, right? Back in the 1960s, 50s, some of the old textbooks, thick, full of words.
And small print, you know. The kids were smart, and they were really challenged. And I remember even, you know, when we were kids, it seemed like the books that we were encouraged to read were, you know, like I said, I was encouraged to read Charles Dickens, and I wasn't that old, you know. And it seems now things have been, what's the expression, like
watered down,
you know, which is unfortunate.
And you know, we'd say, not to sound like old fuddy-duddies, but you know, a reliance more on electronic equipment, you know, iPads, phones, etc. Although there's a law passed recently in Texas, I believe, that they're not allowed to bring in phones into the classroom anymore, which is good here in the public schools. But in terms of what we would find, my sweet wife mentioned earlier to you in previous videos, and we have a slight age difference, a few years between us there. And so what's nice about it is that she brings in a whole host of her knowledge and experience back from an earlier time, and some of the earlier books, music, culture that you remember. I bring it more in the, I would say, although growing up in the 70s, I have more of an 80s kind of remembrance for me on that. And so what's neat is that when we'd run across books that, oh, I remember reading this book or whatnot, we would find those gems at Recycled Reads for a very reasonable price. Now, Half Price has some of those books too, but you know, they'll be more expensive than their collectibles section. And of course, you can go online. It's amazing how much. Maybe this is a little more inside baseball. If you love bookstores, is that Half Price used to have so many shelves full of books. They've pulled out some of the shelves, surprisingly, I'd say. But I think they do so much volume now online,
yes.
And so the bookstores have become a little bit more, for them, more of a warehouse to hold the books, to be able to collect books people are selling, and then be able to sell them back to the public. And so it's nice to be able to browse. That's why we kind of grew up in bookstores, browsing bookstores, finding books. You relate to me in such a wonderful memory. I recall when you went to, you were working back east, and you'd go into bookstores like a Walden Books or B. Dalton, I forget, or was it Crown Books?
Yeah, Crown, yes.
And you used to read the cookbooks.
Yes, yes.
And who knew that just a few decades later or so, you would be writing your own cookbooks.
It is. So, it's hard to believe. Hard to believe.
That's really neat. So one thing that we are sad that'll be closing in January, unfortunately. It had been around for, I'd say, at least 8 years, maybe a decade or so, in one central location, but I guess it was too much for them to rent that space. So if you are in Austin and you're nearby a public library, feel free to stop by there, and they'll have a small selection of books for sale there. But the problem is you can't really go from location to location looking for one. I used to be a voracious reader growing up. That's probably why I've got these thick glasses on now. I remember my dad taking me on road trips across America. And we had, for some reason, I have this memory of reading Lord of the Rings, the paperback version, in the car. He was driving through North Dakota, and he'd say, "Can you look up once in a while and just enjoy some of the scenery around you, places to go?" I remember him mentioning that once, and I think I did look up, and it was just, was it cornfields or some wheat fields, and then I looked back down to the book after that. But so I used to read a lot, but now I see it's you know, focusing up close is not as sharp as it used to be before. And we're also busy doing other things and whatnot that I really gravitated as you have to audiobooks.
Oh yeah, you saw when I was reading this to you, I'm like holding it here because I don't have my bifocals. So yeah, your eyes get tired.
You've got what's neat about it is that sometimes in the past, when Ben was growing up, we would go to the library and we would check out the audiobooks because they'd have them on CD. And then he would listen to them. He listened to so many. As you probably know, he has dyslexia, so reading is very difficult for him.
Yeah.
But he can absorb, he can read audiobooks and absorb them so easily. And it was such a joy to him when he was younger to be able to have that, to have experience the literary worlds that other readers would have, but he would be able to experience it through his own mind's eye, through listening through the audiobooks. But now that's really changed. Although you can check out the CDs, now it's more, people are streaming them more now.
Yes.
That's what we've been doing through Audible. You had a book you were listening to in the fall that it was A Knight in Shining Armor.
Oh, yes. This was very interesting to me. I listened to A Knight in Shining Armor by Jude Deveraux, if I'm saying her name correctly. That book was probably written in the 1980s, and I had read a book many years ago by her, and I think it was called Legend. It has I was attracted to the book because it has a beautiful table on the front of the book with a tablecloth and a lot of food on it. It's a very pretty book, and it's a time travel. I like time travel romances very much, and it was a time travel book. And then I think some people had recommended to me A Knight in Shining Armor. And it's an older book, as I said, written in the 1980s, and all I could find available was a paperback. And I had looked in the used bookstores and all, and it was hard to find a hardback. And I think I might have found it online, but I think it was very expensive, And so, because the hardback is nice, the print's a little bigger. So what I decided to do was to try listening to it on Audible. And I found, I have to tell you, it's funny. You have things in your head that sometimes can be difficult to get over. And I don't really like, what are they called? The ones that go in, they're little and they go in the ear.
Earpods.
Earpods, I don't like those. I like to have actual full headphones, and I like to have them plugged in. I'm just being maybe silly, but I just feel like when it's Bluetooth, is it like doing anything to my brain or something? But I will confess that my sweet husband, as a gift a while back, gave me the headphones that are Bluetooth. But I'm telling you, it really opened up a whole world to me, because I can play the book on Audible, and then I can do all my work in the kitchen and going around the house. The kitchen, the laundry room, the bedroom, and as long as I'm not too far from the phone, I can be listening to the story. And I find that works very well for me, because if I try to listen at night, I fall asleep, and then I don't remember where the book is just going when I wake up, and I have to keep trying to go back to find out where I left off. But listening to it during the day, and boy, it allows you to get through a book quickly. I read super, super slow, and I really can't read more than one chapter at a time of any book. And if it's a long chapter, I might get half a chapter. So this has just really opened up a whole new world to me. And I've also thought, when I listen to something on the iPad, if I'm sitting down, I do have the headphones that just plug in to the iPad. But I'm thinking I could always put the phone in an apron pocket or something and run the wire, if I get a little concerned about those Bluetooth headphones. But in any event, I listened to A Knight in Shining Armor by Jude Deveraux, and it was nice. And I liked the storyline. It's time travel romance. And then I will say the only thing is it's I don't want to say 100%, but it's hard sometimes. You pick up a book and you think it's going to be okay. And I remember Legend being a very clean read. There's a little more scene or two, but this is kind of brushed over kind of quickly. That it isn't 100% closed door in A Knight in Shining Armor. However, that said, it was a good story. So I came across another book by Jude Devereaux that was like, I Will Find You. Again, she does a lot of time travel romance. But it was written more recently. And when I listened to it, I was just like, wow, this is just kind of a recycled version of like a Knight in Shining Armor, you know, and just different characters and whatnot. But it just wasn't written as well. And it's a more recent book. And so I went online and I looked up, you know, sometimes there's like these things, Reddit, you know, on the internet, and there's any subject you could think of, people are talking about. And it was funny because they were saying when it came to books by Jude Devereaux, anything after the 1980s is not worth reading. So I wish I had found that. But I was glad that I didn't spend a lot of time trying to read the book, because it would have taken me a long time to get through it. And I was happy that I could just listen to it on Audible, and it went pretty quick, you know. But I'm kind of off of her, and now I'm just looking for things like this by David Baldacci, when he kind of writes about, you know, these kind of themes. I'm hoping this will be along the lines of Wish You Well, but I'm liking Audible. How about you?
This is the second Baldacci book that you'll be listening to?
The second one, yeah. I read Wish You Well. I mean, actually sat down and read that, and it was so enthralling that all I wanted to do was, I mean, I'd get tired, I'd only do like a chapter at a time, but once I was rested, then I'd want to read another chapter. I really didn't want to put that book down. And I'm hoping that this will be the same way. And I don't know, maybe I'll listen to it on Audible. We'll see. But I'll keep you posted. But I'm sorry, I'm doing all the talking.
No, that's great.
What are you going to say about the books?
To let folks know the books you enjoy there, and why we've turned more to Audible to listen to books. You use it very
much, I think.
I kind of go back and forth. I walk India a lot. We're walking all over the place. I'd say I'm trying to walk a couple miles a day now for good health, and just to enjoy until the cedar season kicks in here in Central Texas. And then that fine cedar pollen that gets all over the cars and everything, that I'm a little susceptible to. But at least now until, well, maybe late December, I think we're still in good shape until about late December to maybe February or so, I think. If we get a good freeze or a good rain, that'll wash it out of the air. So we're hoping for some of that. But when I'm walking our dog Indy, many times I'll have my sweet wife with me, and we'll walk together.
I'm only up to about 3/4 of a mile.
We'll get to
I'm working on it.
But if I'm walking with myself and Indy, then I'll listen to sometimes podcasts, or I'll listen to audiobooks, being on Audible. And I don't know if you're like this too, but you know, sometimes you have some podcasts and sometimes you have some audiobooks, and I'll have more than one. And then you just hop back and forth, depending on how you feel, or if you're interested to go back to this topic. And so sometimes in books, before this, did you ever do that? Did you have multiple books that kind of?
Oh yeah,
so
usually like a cookbook.
You wouldn't read all the way through, yeah. Then you kind of hop back.
And a good cookbook, like the type that really have a lot of good stories in them. A good food writer like Nigella Lawson, and I would have one of her books, and then I would have whatever novel that I might, be interested in at the time.
Yeah, I think when I was younger, I would read, and I read more novels, more fantasy novels, like in terms of the Lord of the Rings type of novels. I would tend to read that all the way through, and it surprised me when I had a computer science professor, and he would say that he had multiple books. But I think that really works well if you have one fiction, maybe in multiple non-fictions. Those are easy to hop back and forth between. But the reason I say that is that that same behavior of kind of hopping between books or getting to do those books is, I find myself doing that in Audible too. But the one I think I've listened to the most And to the end, I'll probably go through to the end of this one, is Brothers in Arms, again, a James Holland book. And I don't really know too much about him, but he's, I think he writes a lot of World War II books. They're all nonfiction. Focuses on different areas like Italy or Sicily. Or this one in Brothers in Arms follows a British regiment of tankers, Sherman tanks, mostly Shermans, that they go through the invasion of Normandy, through the liberation of France. Right now, I think they've just crossed over to the Belgian border, and now they've run out of gas, or supplies haven't caught up to them since the Allies were hurtling so quickly after they broke out of Normandy. So that's been very interesting, and it's read with some of the British accent.
Oh,
that's very
nice.
I must say, it may not be, because it is a war retelling of war. It may not be suitable for all children there, younger children, because it may get into a little graphic. Because war is one of the things they mention is that to be a tank commander would mean that you have a very small chance of making out to the end of the war alive, because they had to be exposed. And as part of that, they would be targeted by snipers and other types of fire during those different firefights that they would have. So. Anyway, it's been a fascinating book to learn about, to read more in detail at the more of the tactical level than at the strategic level. But Audible book, I think it's great. If you haven't had the opportunity to try Audible, we do have my sweet wife does have a link so you could try a free book for free during this trial period. What's neat about Audible is that they have sales during the year. So as part of joining Audible, you get these credits that you can use to basically purchase a book that you'll listen to. Or you can buy a book outright to listen to and not use one of your credits. What's interesting, why I picked this James Holland book is not because I had gone and used a credit for it. Is because if you join Audible, they kind of have like a streaming service. They rotate a set of books through that are free for a while, and then they'll rotate them out and they'll rotate a new set in. And that Brothers in Arms book just happened to be one of the free ones from James Holland. So I didn't have to buy that.
That was good.
I may be tempted to buy some of his books or use a credit for it in the future. I think ours, you can get a credit every month, or you can get a credit every 2 months, and it'll be a little lower price. So I'd say try it out. If you haven't already, give Audible a try. You won't be disappointed. It's nice to have the ability to read and enjoy. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, right? We don't know. We love, you and I grew up with printed books, right? We love the feel of them. We have, what would you say, 20, 30,000 books in our house. I know we have a lot of books. We have a lot of books, and we've probably only read a fraction of them, but we're going to read the other ones. That's why we've got them around. Or we may need to consult with them at one particular time. But what's neat about it, if you can do all three things, right? Because we've got, not only do we have printed copies, we also have some ebooks, like your Kindle books, where you can increase the font size, and those are great for cookbooks, right? So if it's a little too small in the book, see the recipe or the notes or whatnot. If you have an ebook or Kindle version of the book, you can increase the font size, much easier to read. And then if you go, I don't know if they have, maybe for memoirs, audiobooks for cookbooks, but if you're wanting to read other things, then having the audiobook is nice, and you can go around, have a nice walk, work around the house.
Yeah, I like it.
And it enriches your mind.
The next thing we want to share with you are some of our favorite movies to watch this time of year. And we're going to save one of our favorites for last, because it's sort of under an umbrella of multiple versions of it. But two that I want to share with you. One I know you've seen, but I don't think you've seen the other. But one is a total classic, and you've seen this. And we just love it. We really enjoy it. and it's White Christmas. And I mean, it's a classic. Bing Crosby, Danny Kaye, Vera Allen, the dancer, and Rosemary Clooney, wonderful singer. And of course, it includes Bing Crosby's classic, White Christmas song. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful movie. It was made in 1954. The score is by Irving Berlin. I mean, it just doesn't get better than that. And I feel that if you're only going to watch one movie at Christmas time, that is a wonderful, family-friendly, everybody can enjoy it, and it's just a lot of fun. And actually, I have two that I'm thinking of. The other one.
Before you move on to that one, I want to mention that
yeah.
I had not seen White Christmas before.
Right, but you've seen it now.
Yeah. Was it last Christmas?
Last Christmas, yes.
We first time I've seen it. Can you believe it? And because I thought, musicals, okay, they're all right, but this one was rather interesting. What I loved about it was the camaraderie.
Yes.
Of the men who had, again, they had served in war together in the armed forces, and they shared this kind of common bond that I don't know if we have nowadays of people sharing a common experience that kind of brought them together. And it was that was nice to see. They also had some songs, White Christmas you mentioned, but I also heard another one during Christmas time, the snow.
Yeah.
I had not seen where it had come from before, but it came from White Christmas. And so that was neat to see, so I enjoyed it. So thank you this is one of the neat things is how we cross-pollinate on things. These are movies that you grew up on, that you shared with me, and I'm enriched because of it.
Oh, thank you, honey. Yeah, these are movies I grew up watching with my parents. I've seen many times, and I'll often. There's 10 years between us. I'm 10 years older than Ted, and it's just enough to almost be slightly generational, like a little different generation. And so a lot of times I would mention movies like White Christmas, and Ted would be like, oh, I've never seen it. And I think I've intruded you to a lot of my favorite, Inn of the Sixth Happiness with Ingrid Bergman. I enjoy this, and I feel so happy when I introduce Ted to some of these old movies, and he really likes them. And but White Christmas it's a classic.
It was a good one.
The other one, there's actually two, and one we saw together. But I'll get to that one in a minute. But one that I really love is, and it's just one of those screwball comedies, and I really enjoy it, is Christmas in Connecticut. Now, there are multiple versions of this movie, and I think I have my notes here. There's the older version, I don't know if it was made in the 1940s or the 1950s, and it's a great movie. I love all the movies from the 1940s, 50s. They're just fantastic. But I saw Christmas in Connecticut, the 1992 version, and it had Diane Cannon and Chris Christopherson. It's so cute. It's just a wonderful comedy, romance, and it's just wonderful. So if you come across that, either you probably might even be able to just find it on YouTube, and if you don't mind, watching the ads, I never mind that because I'm getting it for free. But maybe you have a streaming service that has it. But Christmas in Connecticut, 1992, Diane Cannon and Chris Christopherson, and it's adorable. There's so much chemistry between the two of them. It's a lot of fun. And the other one, it just popped in my head because I didn't initially have it on my list. But we saw it last Christmas, the cartoon, and it was called The Star.
Oh, yeah.
Was it called The Star?
That's a nice family-friendly one.
That is such a wonderful, wonderful animated cartoon about the Star of Bethlehem and Mary and Joseph traveling to Bethlehem and the birth of baby Jesus. Well, the animals talk, and anything with an anthropomorphic, if I'm saying that right, anthropomorphic animals that talk and act like humans. I love that stuff. And the donkey and the sheep, and I think, is there a dove? There's some kind of bird.
Yeah, something. I think you're right. I think you're right.
They're so funny together. But what's really darling is, a lot of times when we think of Saint Joseph and the Blessed Mother, at least like growing up, these are serious people and religious and this. And not that there's nothing, I don't want to imply that any of this is, what's the word when religious isn't
sacrilegious?
Yeah, it's not sacrilegious in any sense of the word, but it's so cute the way they portray Mary and Joseph. They're so loving, and she talks to the animals. She doesn't know they're talking to each other, but she's loving and kind, and I'm not giving any spoilers, but I think everybody knows the story. But the donkey, his leg gets hurt or something, and she nurses him back to health, and she just talks. Her character is so sweet and just adorable, and the way she talks to her husband, Saint Joseph, and and the way he talks to her, and how they have to prepare, for the birth of baby Jesus, and how the animals are helping, and everybody's getting nervous because they can't, find a place, and it's just. I really enjoyed it. Did you like it? I think you liked it.
I would imagine with children that'd be even more animated to love it. But we enjoyed it. It was a nice story, some humor that was nice to enjoy as part of it. So.
And would you say that the way Mary and Joseph was so endearing?
Yeah, everything worked out beautifully, and it was nice. Again, I know you love anthropomorphic animals ever since probably Peter Rabbit, right? Benjamin Bunny. So it's nice to see those.
Yeah, that was a very good movie. So, but something we really love, and we watch it almost every Christmas, is some version, and it won't surprise you given the book that I mentioned in the beginning, some version of A Christmas Carol. And right now, we've watched it many years. Our son Benjamin grew up watching this movie. And it's the 1970 version called Scrooge. And it's with Albert Finney, and it's a musical, and it's fantastic. That's right? It's fantastic. The musical score is amazing.
It's amazing to think about how beautiful the Hollywood sets were for that movie, that they hold up quite well today. They really transport you back to Victorian England during that time. You can feel the cold, you can feel the tightness of the buildings. You can feel like you're a sense with the people with all the costumes. It's a beautiful. I'm shocked. I never saw it before until my sweet wife introduced it to me when we first got married. But you actually saw it before. You saw it when it was first released.
Oh yeah, I saw it when it was first released.
Was that?
And I sometimes I'm 67 years old. Sometimes I don't always remember things, exactly how they happened. And but I remember my parents would take me into New York City. We lived in New York in the suburbs, and they would take me into New York City. And we would go to Radio City Music Hall, and they would have their Christmas show. And the Rockettes would dance, and those are the girls who do the real high kicks, and they'd be a long line of them, and they'd have like red velvet Christmas dresses with white fur, and they'd play music, and the girls would dance, and fantastic, the Rockettes. And that was at Radio City Music Hall. And then after their show, they would show a movie, and it was usually a movie, usually had some type of Christmas theme to it. And sometimes it would be a new release. And I believe I saw the original Scrooge there. If I didn't see it at Radio City Music Hall, I saw it at some other movie theater in New York City, some big movie theater. But it was just wonderful, and I've loved it. It was 1970. I would have been
just turned a
about,
teenager.
about 12, maybe
almost
going on 13 within a few months. And so, but I enjoyed it tremendously, and I've always liked it, and I was so happy when, did we have it on VHS? You know, it was like the big
hard to imagine
tapes,
the old that we used to. I don't. Do we have any? Maybe we have a few that we haven't cleared out left in the house.
Yeah.
Certainly no Betamax. But
it was. I was so happy, and we showed it to Benjamin, and it kind of became a family tradition, and we know all the songs, and we sing along, and it's a lot of fun. And you liked it.
I think we have a Blu-ray of it or something now.
We might.
Now you can stream it, and that's always interesting. You like to have the digital version if you can, but it's not as easy to watch. But at least you're guaranteed that however it was captured cinematically will still be there, right? That there won't be someone will say, oh, I want to change it now. I want to get rid of X, or I want to add Y to it. And so it changes the storyline or changes how it was originally presented. So at least when you do have the hard copy, I would say like with hard copy books too, right? Is that it's nice when you have both. You can have both. You can have both. If you love the story and you want to be able to see it in the future in its original form, have the DVD, have the Blu-ray of it. Or if it's so easier for you to watch and same old version, stream it. I think we're watching. What are we watching this? We're getting. What's nice is that we have Spectrum here for our cable system and our TV, and as part of that they give you free access to a bunch of streaming services. So that's a really nice thing.
That is nice.
Now you have to watch ads.
Yeah, there's going to be commercials.
A lot of ads. But one of them is Paramount, and I think that's where we're watching this Scrooge version with Albert Finney.
Yes.
And it's and I must say it's nice. You're right. The musical songs. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's a good one. Or the December the 25th.
Yeah.
December the 20th.
So many good songs.
You'll enjoy it. Very family friendly. There might be scary scenes with some of the ghosts, but that's understandable.
If you feel, I'm not quite sure how old Benjamin was when we showed it to him, but yeah, I mean it's a ghost. It's a ghost.
You can skip over the parts where they're flying. I think they're flying with a few ghosts that may look a little scary. Again, it's all makeup, right? It's all 1970s makeup. But other than that, it's very.
Yeah, I think middle school and up maybe. Yeah. To give you an example, I'm not 100% sure when we showed how old Benjamin was when we showed it to him, but what I do remember was when we sat down, everybody that he was, I don't know when the first Harry Potter book came out, but everybody was reading it, and he was feeling a little sad because he couldn't read a book like that. Now he has very severe dyslexia. And I think you worked, with the library to get the audio version so he could listen to it. Then the first movie came out, and he was like, oh, I'd like to see the movie, but we didn't go to the movie theater. We waited till it was available on DVD. It would have been a DVD, I think, maybe. And we started watching it, and he asked us to turn it off. Because and I don't know how much he's even really seen the movies to this date. He didn't like it. He was like a little scared by it. But I don't remember when that first movie came out and how old he was.
Things kind of blend together, though. But that's a good. If you ever,
but he was comfortable watching Scrooge.
Yeah, if you're ever unsure about how your child, now boys might be different than girls, certainly preview the movie first, and then I'm sure there's a lot of guides on the web that will tell you, they recommend, for parents X and Y, whatnot. So it really all depends on your child. We believe that the most important thing was to protect his innocence.
Yes.
was to preserve that as long as you can and not introduce mature things, because the world is scary enough when you get to be an adult, right? I'd say you don't need to watch a scary movie. You just need to life will bring you things that are challenging, and you'll know that other things exist in the world that can be terrible, and you want to guard your child, or at least our philosophy. And I'd say we'd recommend this to all parents, guard their innocence as long as you can. And so that we did that with Benjamin. I think he just started believing that Santa Claus isn't real, right? I think so.
Oh, I have to tell you about, that's funny. Actually, so my timeline must be kind of confused, because it's saying the movie came out in 2001, so I don't know when the book came out, but it had been out a while, obviously, when his friends were reading it, and he couldn't read it.
Yeah, there was a time I
so
think
he would have been too young to go to see that.
I remember because we probably took him. It's funny, God bless him being dyslexic. We took him to a lot of bookstores. And I remember there was a lot of, for these release dates of these new books, the books that would come out, I forgot which one, they would have, maybe it was the last one, they had big, midnight releases at Barnes & Nobles. And so we would go to that, he would dress up, he would have a old Pokemon Oddish that he would put into...
Looked like a little mandrake root.
Yeah, so he would put it into a little flower pot. And I remember going to one of these events with him. He was excited because they had, wands. You can play with wands and all kinds of things to pretend you're doing magical stuff. But I think that's when he was excited about it, but he couldn't read it.
Yeah.
And then we started to introduce him to some of the movies, and then he said, well,
I don't like him.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. He gravitated to others. What's that one, Aragon? He really enjoyed.
He liked Aragon.
He read that whole series, Christopher
Palladini, something like that.
Yeah.
And he also liked, there was the boy who was in the prehistoric time.
Oh, yeah, Torak or something.
Yeah,
I may not remember exactly.
I'll get a list of the books that he liked.
These are all, these are all CDs that we could get from the library that he listened to.
And he would listen to, and he enjoyed that. But he saw, I can't remember, maybe he was about 10 when he saw Scrooge. And I think...
it also has, too, that if you don't do well, if you're not a moral person, then it shows, that you could wind up not in heaven.
Not in heaven.
So that's, in a way, that's a good moral story for children as well.
And you know what? I'll say something that, Harry Potter. So the first movie came out 2001. Benjamin would have been too young. I'm thinking the 2009 one maybe was when he went to Barnes and Noble's. I'm not 100% sure, but something I think is interesting is, and my husband made a really good point when he said the 1970s makeup. I think a film from the 1970s that may have ghosts, it almost looks, especially if you have a boy who's about 10 or 11, they sometimes find things from generations before them to be a little funny because it looks a little hokey or a little old-fashioned, and it's not... the movies today, they were just way too scary.
With the CGI, can be too graphic and scary.
We have turned off many a movie. Yeah. And so I think that maybe if he was about 10 when we first showed him Scrooge, and we were always happy to turn something off if he didn't like it, And I think that he enjoyed it, and he even made a little video about
Christmas Carol.
He did a little... what do you call it? Parody?
Yeah.
He had a YouTube channel called Commander Ben, and he made a little parody about native plants here in Texas, and did it sort of with a Christmas Carol theme. So I think he really, so I'm thinking he must have been about 10 or so, when he first saw that. And I don't think he was particularly scared, and I think he thought it was... that the ghosts or whatever were portrayed kind of you know, not what he had been used to seeing, the level of, like you said, CGI, or the way movies were more, you know, they were a little fancier or more polished. This was, you know, a little more homey, but he enjoys that. He still talks about that Scrooge to this day.
No, this is not the only Christmas Carol movie
that's what I wanted to.
There was some other ones that
you introduced me to too.
Yeah, I'd say there was the two that we kind of rotate between watching. It's always nice to watch at least this time of year. Of course, Scrooge, and then there was one in the 80s with George C. Scott. And he played, you know, Scrooge during that one. I thought it was
excellent.
A great one. I remember it. I was going to college at the time, and I had worked in New York in a co-op, and I was driving back for Christmas time to be with my folks. And for whatever reason, you know, I stopped by, visited some relatives that we have in West Virginia, and then went down to, for some reason I stopped in Midland, Odessa, which is only a couple hours away from El Paso, but maybe it was just late at night. So I stopped there, and I remember turning on the TV, and it was on. And being a young guy, I don't know why I gravitated toward it, but I remember watching it and thinking, oh, I'm going to be home soon. And it just was a very cozy, very Christmas cozy one. One in the 90s was with Patrick Stewart, which I know my sweet wife is a great Star Trek fan.
I love Star Trek.
And
Captain Kirk will always be the best.
Right. I have to agree with that. Captain Kirk is the best, and Patrick Stewart.
Although I know there's people get into a big controversy about that, but I grew up with that.
And so he is another good one too. And
that is such a good, and he's a great Scrooge. As was George C. Scott. I loved being introduced to both of them by you. But that Patrick Stewart is a really good Scrooge, and that's done really well, filmed really well.
You have to tell us if you know of any other Christmas carols. Now, I'm sure there's ones previous to Scrooge too, right? That have been made, but at least those are the three that we really enjoy and hop around. And those are available on streaming too. The ones, I think we had tried to watch one that was more recent, maybe in the last 10 years or so, but it was much darker. And so we turned it off because it was, they tried to change the story around, I think a little too much to make it a little darker. They thought maybe they were being avant-garde. Just don't mess with the Christmas Carol. It's meant to be a nice, as you mentioned, story of redemption. Enjoy the story for what it is and the time period it was in, and the familiar trappings that people expect of that story. And I think then you'll have a great movie. And so that's the ones that we were able to find in time. If you have any that you'd recommend, please share them with us. We would love to know of other Christmas carols.
It's just such a wonderful story. But I'm glad you mentioned that, because I had forgot about that, because we didn't watch it all the way through. If you come across that, I don't know what year that was made.
I can't remember.
But it is so not family friendly and so not appropriate. The subject matter, yikes.
Why do they feel fail to do that? I don't understand why people...
Charles Dickens was spinning in his grave.
Why they feel the need to have to... what they call it, deconstruct or make up a whole new story and try to make it avant-garde or whatnot. Again, unnecessary. Don't do that. They
messed it up big time. Yeah, that was terrible. But there is one that I don't think you've seen this. There's a cartoon of A Christmas Carol, and I'm going to give you a little bit of, I'm sure there's multiple ones, but a little bit of trivia is in this one that I like, and I'll see if I can find it and the year that it was made. But it's a delightful cartoon. Again, it's a cartoon and it's very family friendly. And the song in it is beautiful. It's done, I believe it was made by someone who used to work for Disney but then left Disney. I'm not sure. but it's beautiful, and it has a lovely musical score. And the song, the main song, which is so beautiful, is sung, and I didn't know she was a singer, and she has the most beautiful voice, by the woman now, who was the star in the movie Titanic. And I'm trying to think, what is her name?
Yeah, don't recall, but now that you mention, I can sort of picture that. You showed me that the song that she was singing.
Did I?
That was a beautiful song. I don't think I saw the whole animated version of A Christmas Carol. One thing I do...
Kate Winslet.
Oh, yes.
Sorry,
Right,
honey. I didn't mean Kate Winslet. Yeah, what were you going to say?
No,
that was... I just say her name. I blurted it out.
Was there any other... Can you recall other animations, other things that you'd recommend for folks that are Christmassy, that... Rankin Bass.
Oh my
gosh,
gosh,
all the Rankin Bass. Of course, we have to watch all those. Yeah, those are good.
And there is one that there's not going to be a dry eye in the room, where there's a little boy who's blind, and he somehow stumbles upon a convent of Catholic nuns. And the lead nun, the voice, it's a cartoon, it's a Rankin Bass.
What do they call those animations?
Oh, yeah, is it claymation?
Yeah, something like that.
I'm not sure. And the voice of, the head nun, the Mother Superior, I'm not sure, but it's Angela Lansbury. And I don't know who the voice of the little boy is, but he's blind, and it's just such a tearjerker, but it's set at the Christmas time, and they're praying for a miracle, and the snow, it starts to snow, he wants it to snow, and the snow hits his eyes, and then he can see, and everybody's crying. But I love that one.
That's a rare one, yeah.
That's a rare one. It's hard to find.
Yeah, because they don't always broadcast. Now, of course, the favorites are Santa Claus is coming to town. Is that
love
Fred
that.
Astaire singing that?
Is that? Yeah, I think it's Fred Astaire.
Something like that. That's probably the best.
Yeah.
Of course,
or is it Burl Ives? I always get mixed because they used Fred Astaire and Burl Ives plays the postman in one, and he's tall and skinny. Character. Is that?
Plays a Santa Claus.
Oh yeah.
Or not Santa Claus. Snowman.
Frosty the Snowman.
Yeah, that's an animated one. Frosty
and Rudolph the
Red-Nosed Reindeer. Yeah.
And is that the Island of Misfit Toys?
Yes, and we always joke about that. They belong to the Island of Misfit Toys. Yeah. But you can't go wrong with Rankin Bass ones. Although there's one, Mr. Fire or something. I don't. That one's not so good. But most of them, I would say they're all going to be good. But ones you'll like more than others.
And there's one. This is jumping ahead, but for St. Patrick's Day, I think Rankin Bass did one with leprechauns and the pot of gold and the red. It's very cute. And then this is we were totally jumping ahead out of the Christmas season, but if you've never seen the movie. Oh gosh, is it Darby McGill or something like that? But and I'll try to find this, and we'll definitely, if we talk, we'll do this maybe in the spring and around St. Patrick's Day. But that is made by Disney, and it's back in the day when Disney made really good movies. And you will not believe who the male lead in that is. It's long before we knew him as James Bond, Sean Connery. And he is singing and dancing, and it is adorable.
Well, that's a lot of wonderful Christmas movies that we can actually enjoy together. This kind of blends, I do have one more, this kind of blends over to the music arena. But sometimes we've been watching the Andy Williams Christmas special.
Oh my gosh, they're so good.
There's a couple different ones, but they're a lot of fun to see. Must say, I didn't know about Andy Williams. And I learned about him actually through my sweet wife. She's Mary's Nest is a sponsor of this public radio station out of Killeen, Texas, near Fort Hood. It's KNCT 91.3. And what's beautiful about it is that they have a streaming service. So if you're all the way across the world, in Europe or Asia or even across the United States here, you can stream their songs or stream their station, and they play easy listening, right? I would say back 50s and 60s, easy listening,
Some
70s,
40s,
yeah. They play the songs, they play the music versions of the songs. They've got, what's neat about it is that when I listen to it, it reminds me of being back with my dad, growing up in El Paso, and there used to be a store called Hal's Hobby Shop. And he would take me there, and there's a couple of others there, and they'd have different models or games, and he would always like to peruse them, and I got into the habit of doing that, which I've carried on today too, to enjoy looking at different games. But that music takes me back to that time. And so when I hear that, I think of that, and I also think of my dad and how he would play 70s music that I would listen to growing up, and it would remind me of things. And you said, well, there's a station like that, that here in Central Texas when we got together, and I started listening to it, and I said, wow, I really love this station. And it's on almost all the time whenever we listen to music. I'll have it on the radio, or we'll have it streaming if the radio is not handy or convenient to do by. So I'd certainly encourage you to do that, because my sweet wife loves that music so much, or that era, that time period, that kind of gets captured by KNCT and is sponsored, is one of the sponsoring members of the station. And Andy Williams is great. I love his. It's like you'd say, well, with Barbra Streisand, his voice is like butter, right? It's just beautiful to listen to.
He does have a nice
I told my friend, oh, I love Andy Williams.
His best friend.
And he says, you know who else loved Andy Williams? My mother loved Andy Williams. And so I think I was dating myself a little bit, but he seemed new to me. And I do remember a time, this is when all our parents were alive, and my sweet wife said to me, she said, hey, you know, Andy Williams is playing in Branson, Missouri. And why don't we got a minivan, why don't we get our young son Ben, all the parents together, we'll hop in there, we'll drive up to Branson, and we'll listen to him, and we'll see what other acts might be out there. And at the time I thought, my God, these are old people. Why would I want to go see an old act from the 60s or early 70s or other? I guess he's 60s, 70s. He's lasted a while, right? But oh, how sad I am now that I've really gone to like him. I wish if I had a time machine, I would go back. I would go back in time for all of us to go to listen to him, because what a beautiful voice. They also play John Denver, who I remember growing up with my dad. Of course, one of his favorite songs was Almost Heaven, West Virginia.
Yeah.
And my mom was a teacher, a special ed teacher, and she used to like to sing the songs a lot in class. And one was Sunshine on My Shoulder Makes Me Happy. And so she used to sing that too. So I grew up a lot with John Denver. It was nice to relive it or re-listen to him as part of the station 91.3 KNCT over the air. To hear that, so what are some of the other acts of that era? Frank Sinatra.
Oh, they play Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Tony Bennett. They play it all, and then yet they'll have something from the 70s, like kind of the easy listening songs, like Bread, the group Bread, and something that I was almost feeling a little sad to tell my sweet husband.
What's
when no, you already know this, but. When he was really liking Andy Williams and then feeling bad that we didn't go to Branson. And then I broke the news to him that I had seen Andy Williams as a high schooler with my girlfriend and her dad. He got tickets, and we all went down into the New York City to Lincoln Center. And I said, I saw him live, honey. And then he was like...
You lucky guy. You lucky dog. That's fantastic. Yeah.
But that was fun. Indy's chewing on a bone, so he's very happy. But you may hear him chomping.
So I wanted to share with you what was neat about this period of time. If you're streaming, if you enjoy Christmas music, is that between Thanksgiving and about 2 weeks before Christmas, they'll intermingle easy listening songs with Christmas songs.
Yes.
So you have 2 easy listening songs, maybe like I said, John Denver or Gordon Lightfoot.
Oh yeah, that's right, Gordon.
Or Roger Whittaker.
Yeah,
and then you have a couple of those, and then you'll have Christmas song, which is nice. One of the old-fashioned Christmas songs, right? So it may be Andy Williams, or it could be just a nice instrumental, a beautiful instrumental of the Three Kings, maybe the 1970s version or something. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks before Christmas, again, assuming the pattern will be the same as previous years, then it'll go all Christmas music. And so that'll fill your house through until Christmas Day. And then sometimes they ease back a little, which I enjoy between Christmas and New Year's. You know, they'll go back to 2 easy listening songs, and then a Christmas song, and then the New Year we'll be back to, you know, their next, the Letterman too. That's another
the Letterman.
Group
We just heard a song yesterday. Yeah.
So a lot of nice songs. I must admit, sometimes though they play, I think, more modern versions of songs. Like we heard a horrible rendition of Gordon Lightfoot's song. And I think Elton John's old songs, just terrible.
I don't know what that. It's a special show they have.
They're trying to. I think what they're trying to do, they're trying to intermingle a few things to help people who, new listeners or younger listeners, maybe might be interested in this. And I would say, no, don't do a Cracker Barrel to our beautiful station here. You know, there's a certain time period you want to stay in. I'd say 80s is good.
Yeah.
You know, go up to the 80s, go back to the 40s,
yeah,
maybe, or even earlier, maybe than they have.
Yeah, I think 40s.
So that entire there is such a beautiful, rich blend of easy listening music that you can choose from and enjoy. I'd say keep it that, because that'll attract people. That'll attract younger listeners to that, who want to listen to that type of music, because there's so many choices nowadays, right? Now, when we grew up, it was nice because everybody had a shared experience. We talked about White Christmas.
ABC Radio in New York,
experience.
WABC.
That would be Casey Kasem with
the countdown.
Yeah, and that, so everybody kind of knew the same types of music. There's so much variety nowadays, maybe too much, right?
Yeah.
You'd say that the people, it's hard to have that. There's some crossover culture there, but it's not the same as before.
Yeah, I don't even, sometime after the 90s, I kind of, you know, with Benjamin, I would hear things on the radio, but then sometime after the 90s, I lost track. I mean, I don't know who the singers are today or anything. And it's funny because our son, I wouldn't say he listens to whatever music is popular in 2025. He likes like movie soundtracks and stuff.
That's fascinating, because we had a chat about this once, in that how our music, or the music that we enjoy, is probably influenced by our parents, you know, or our peers that we were with when we were growing up. And so I know you had a lot of influence with, Frank Sinatra, the types of music that your folks would play. My dad, as I mentioned, would play John Denver, Gordon Lightfoot, those types of songs during the 70s. And so that I'm interested in those songs. I like those songs as well. For some reason, that didn't get imprinted with Benjamin, or he didn't gravitate toward it. He did gravitate, however, to an interesting part is that we would listen to a lot of show tunes. So I would listen with him a lot of Star Wars, right? He enjoyed Star Wars.
He loved Star Wars.
So any type of Star Wars instrumental music, which was neat about those the older versions, not the Disney ones, but the older ones, is that they had that rich John Williams soundtrack that you could really enjoy, and the complexity of it. A Duel of the Fates, as you may know from episode 1, or the Imperial March from Empire Strikes Back. You know how that, you can see how that really a young child's, especially a boy, the imagination could be really enriched by having those songs. So that's Superman, the theme song to the old Superman in the 1970s. Boy, a lot of them are John Williams, written by him. Raiders. That's probably more me. Raiders of the Lost Ark.
You like Raiders of the Lost Ark.
He liked more the science fiction.
Yeah.
I think I grew up in a time where there's still a lot of interest in World War II. There's still a lot of veterans around. And so I probably was more towards the armed forces sides of things, or movies set within those time periods where he looked more of the future time periods, more of the space movies, space exploration.
He
battles
loved Star Wars.
He really was a fan.
And that's even why he would refer to himself as Commander Ben.
That's right.
Nothing to do, with the military, but they're in what I forget what they're called. The clones.
They're in the Clone Wars. They had different commanders, Commander Cody, Commander etc.
Yeah, and he would talk about them and play like he was playing with them, and he had the little figures. He was very cute.
And I always asked him, I said, that's interesting. You always liked the Star Wars and not like, Marvel. I also grew up with Marvel in the 1970s, so I know a lot of their the characters. And I said, you weren't really into superheroes. And he says, well, you kind of see the faces of them, right, and whatnot. But with the clones and a lot of the Star Wars figures, that you don't see the faces, so that your imagination could fill in whatever you thought was there. And he really enjoyed that.
Yeah, he really liked that.
So
He'd call himself Commander Ben. He went as a clone for many Halloweens. And he named, when we got the dog we had before, Indy, he named her Obi-Wan Kenobi. And then it was a little funny because here we have this child who loves Star Wars, dresses like a clone, something out of Clone Wars, a lot. I mean, it wasn't just Halloween. And his dog's name is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and his name is Ben. And people would be like, you named your son Ben? And we were like, no, Benjamin is named after Benjamin Franklin, not Ben Kenobi. But it was funny, people's reaction sometimes, But Benjamin, to this day, he loves that soundtrack. And a lot of, I think your influence of a lot of the movie themes, the show tunes, that's what he gravitated to. And one thing I will tell you that's funny, you talk about dating yourself. I grew up, who was popular, the music I listened to was a man named Bobby Sherman. And if you're in my age group, you'll recognize him. I feel embarrassed sometimes because I think everybody knows Bobby Sherman. And sometimes I'll mention him to younger people and you just get the blank stare. Right? But Bobby Sherman was very popular. And he was, I can't think of the name of the variety show that he'd be on. And then he had the singing career, and then he went on to be on the TV show. It was based on the movie Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, and Here Come the Brides, I think was a TV show. It was in the 70s. And I liked Bobby Sherman very much. And my husband is so sweet. You got me the CD of his, like the best of Bobby Sherman or something, and I would play that in the car with Benjamin, and he really liked that song, Hey Little Woman, come make up your mind. But Benjamin was, I don't know, maybe kindergarten or whatever, and I would play those songs in the car, and we would sing together. And it was really funny because I said, you like that song, Little Woman? And he said, yes. Clearly, he always had a very good vocabulary and he spoke really well. Not if you have a child who has dyslexia, you know that they speak very well very early and have a good vocabulary. It's a gift, I believe, to compensate for the problem with reading. And he said, oh yes, clearly he's singing about an alien, because he always was always with the science fiction and Little Woman. He was thinking like a little alien. But that was very funny. And I even have, Bobby Sherman wrote an autobiography, and my husband contacted him and got it signed for me. That was very nice. I think he's passed away now, but
God bless him. God bless him.
But so and I mean he grew up listening a lot to 91.3 and those songs, so he knows Frank Sinatra, he knows all these things, but he really gravitated to the Star Wars. And you're right, the music was so good with those movies, whether it was Raiders of the Lost Ark, dun, 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 dun. I mean, everything's so classic, and Star Wars, and even Star Trek, and the Disney movies. I was thinking the ones that, I saw a lot of the old ones with Ben that I grew up with, the old Disney movies, and we were just talking about this the other night. Such beautiful songs, with Jiminy Cricket, When You Wish Upon a Star singing, all these beautiful songs. And even right up until, what would it have been, the 90s, the one, Pocahontas. And I can't think of that woman's name. She has a beautiful singing voice. She did the singing for that. And then something happened. And there was just such a switch. And I remember we were seeing some Disney movie. We were just watching, like, coming attractions were coming on before some movie we were watching. And the music was, whatever cartoon it was, modern day, was terrible. And it was just a lot of screeching and, right? Yeah. And we were like, what? Yeah. And we miss it.
Now, I must say...
Now I sound like an old lady.
Every generation has that, kids, get off my lawn, turn down the music and whatnot. But I must say, at least for our era, I certainly enjoy the music that's played, that my wife grew up with, that I grew up with. That's played on 91.3 KNCT. Again, I encourage you to stream it for free. Enjoy the music as part of the season here. And if you also are interested, we kind of went over a movie, or I'd say books. We went over movies and talked about some music. And of course, we enjoy board games, playing some of those. We played a couple recently. I mentioned the fromage, or you've maybe seen some of the older videos where we talk about some different charcuterie we played before, some of these food-themed songs. We played this Quacks of Quedlinburg or something. I'm mispronouncing the last name, but I'll try to overlay a picture for you. But that was a fun one where we had to grab different ingredients to make potions. And it's just it's a silly, fun game. But you draw the ingredients from, you fill your kind of little pouch, opaque pouch, with ingredients, and then you would draw them out, and then you try to place them to make your potion as part of that. So it's a fun little game for that, for all ages. Another one we played recently was called Loaf. I think it's a French game. It's
such a silly game because it encourages laziness.
Yeah, it's weird because it's a play on words, right? So you're in this French bakery. Yet you don't want to do work. You're playing someone who doesn't want to do work, but yet you got to do enough work so that way the boss isn't upset with you, the head chef isn't upset with you. So you need to bake as little, you're rewarded to bake as little as you can.
Can you believe it?
But you need to bake at least enough, you and other people. So it's basically, I don't know if it's like a low bidding game where you may be with other people, but you're trying to get them to do more work, to roll out the pastries and make the bread. and you can kind of loaf around a little bit while they're doing that. So that's an interesting game to play. Just something different. There's another neat game. I forget the name of it, but I'm going to try to overlay a picture of it. But it's like, I think it's called Barbecue, and it's in a little tin, and you put your this kind of this grate over it, and it's fun. It's like it's a physical game, like Jenga, where you pull out the towers, but instead of it, you've got a little barbecue grate, and you flip over cards, and you have to pick up like a fish or a piece of steak or a chicken leg, and you gotta place it on the barbecue without any food falling in. And so that's a nice icebreaker game to have with multiple players doing it before maybe you get onto other things to play other games that you like. So a couple new ones out there. We're looking to forward to playing. Last year we played Fromage, which was a French cheese game.
That was fun.
This year a new version came out. It's a standalone version called Formaggio, I think, which is Italian. It's Italian based. So we're looking forward to doing that and learning more about Italian cheeses. My sweet wife is part Italian, and I've gotten to enjoy a lot of Italian meals, thank goodness, from my sweet wife. And so it'd be neat to know some of the cheeses, to grow some of them as part of the game that we play. So that's a lot of neat things to enjoy as part of your holiday celebrations for this Christmas.
And we'll be sure to put a video over here with past videos that Ted and I have done together, where we've talked about some of our favorite games and ideas for Christmas.
You actually have one with the homemade Christmas gifts.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
I think that may be a video that you can point to there.
And a lot of homemade Christmas gifts.
Hot chocolate mixes.
And they're all relatively easy. And what I did was I put like on a little, what would you say, continuum. And I start with easy, they're all easy to make, but some just involve more time than others.
Yeah, it's really the time.
So it's based on time, how much time you have. And the some are like you can make so fast, and it's really great to have these on hand. And I will tell you, they're so popular. They're easy to make. I have like
you were on
hot chocolate.
There was a radio show from Europe that interviewed you just a few weeks ago about some.
Yeah, I appear periodically on what's it called, Radio Europe? Or,
yeah, we'll put
a link below. And Selena is the host. She's just delightful. And the DJ, whatever, and she'll play music, and then between the songs, she'll have different guests come on, and she's had me on a couple of times, and it's a lot of fun chatting with her. And in that recent radio spot, I talked about these homemade gifts, and I will tell you that the homemade chocolate, hot chocolate mix, which is very easy to make, and I show you how to jar it up and how to keep the marshmallows separate. It's very clever. And the other two that are so popular is the shelf-stable coffee creamer, and a keto version, because keto is so popular, and a lot of people have said, "Oh, do you have a keto version?" And so I have a lot of homemade gifts, but those three are very, very popular. So I think you'll enjoy that. So I'll be sure to put that in. We'll put together this playlist over here for you, and it'll pop up on the screen. I think to the right. Yeah. And you will curate all of these videos that we've talked about, and I think that'll be nice for you. Well, I'm wishing you a very Merry Christmas and a happy and healthy and blessed New Year. We love you all. We're so happy that you join us here on a regular basis. We look forward to starting this series. I'm still doing cooking, but we look forward to doing this series as a couple, and sharing some of our favorite things that we enjoy here in our home, here in the Texas Hill Country. And we just want to thank you. You're such a blessing in our lives. and you make every day for us very special. And so we love you all, and have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season. Merry Christmas, and I think by the time this comes out, Hanukkah will be starting, so happy Hanukkah, and have a wonderful, happy, healthy, and blessed New Year. Love, and God bless.